What if I told you that the one man we've all been celebrating as wrestling's ultimate rebel, the lunatic Fringe himself, has been playing us all for absolute fools? What if the most shocking attack in recent WWE history wasn't random chaos, but a calculated betrayal that goes deeper than anything we've seen since the Festival of Friendship? Welcome back to WrestleScope, where we dig deeper than anyone else dares to go. And today we're about to expose a truth so explosive, so utterly devastating, that it will change how you see professional wrestling forever. Because Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, whatever name he's hiding behind these days, orchestrated the brutal attack on CM Punk at Survivor Series. And I have the receipts to prove it. Before you rush to the comments to defend your precious Mox, before you tell me I've lost my mind, ask yourself this one simple question. Why has no one questioned the timing? Why has the wrestling world been so blind to what's been staring us in the face this entire time? CM Punk returns to WWE after a decade away. The wrestling world celebrates. We all shed tears watching him walk through that curtain again. We believed in the redemption story. We believed in second chances. We believed that maybe, just maybe, the most controversial man in wrestling had finally found peace. But there was one man who couldn't let that happen. One man whose entire identity was built on being wrestling's ultimate anti-hero, the guy who didn't play by the rules, the rebel without a cause. And suddenly, CM Punk comes back and threatens to take that spotlight away. Dean Ambrose saw CM Punk's return not as a celebration, but as a declaration of war. And at Survivor Series, he responded with violence, manipulation, and a conspiracy so deep that it involves people you trust, names you worship, and a betrayal that makes Seth Rollins look like a saint. I'm about to connect dots that WWE doesn't want you to connect. And if you think I'm wrong, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be demanding answers, just like I am. Let's start with the facts, people, because facts don't care about your feelings, and they certainly don't care about Dean Ambrose's carefully crafted rebel image. Survivor Series 2024. CM Punk is ambushed in the most vicious, calculated attack we've seen in years. Everyone immediately starts pointing fingers at the obvious suspects. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. We've been conditioned to look at the people in the arena, the people on television, the people in the spotlight. But what about the man who's been watching from the shadows? The man who left WWE claiming he wanted creative freedom, but who has spent years watching WWE's success grow without him. Dean Ambrose left WWE in 2019 bitter, burned out, and angry. He rebranded himself as Jon Moxley, became the face of AEW, and built a reputation as the guy who escaped WWE's machine. But here's what nobody wants to talk about. Dean Ambrose never got the closure he wanted. He never got his moment. He never got to walk away on top. And then CM Punk does the impossible. He returns to WWE, gets a hero's welcome, main events, premium live events, and becomes exactly what Ambrose always wanted to be, the rebel who came back and won. Now you might be saying, but Mox is in AEW. He can't just show up at a WWE event. And that's exactly what they want you to think. That's the genius of this whole conspiracy. Because Ambrose didn't need to be there. He just needed to pull the strings. Let me walk you through the web of connections that proves Dean Ambrose's involvement beyond any reasonable doubt. First, let's talk about the actual attackers. Multiple, masked individuals. Professional. Precise. These weren't random thugs hired off the street. These were trained fighters who knew exactly how to execute a coordinated assault. Who do we know that has connections to underground wrestling promotions, deathmatch circuits, and fighters who operate outside WWE's corporate structure? Jon Moxley. The man has spent 5 years building relationships in every independent promotion, in every back alley wrestling show, in every place where wrestlers go when they want to operate in the shadows. He has the connections, he has the resources, and most importantly, he has the motive. But here's where it gets even more insane. Let's talk about the timing of the attack. It happened right as CM Punk was gaining momentum for a potential World Championship match at Royal Rumble. Right as the WWE Universe was rallying behind him, right as he was about to achieve the redemption arc that Dean Ambrose never got. Coincidence? I don't think so. And let's not forget the leaked reports about backstage tension in AEW during Punk's time there. Reports that conveniently emerged right before Punk's WWE return. Reports that painted Punk as difficult, as problematic, as someone who couldn't get along with anyone. Who was one of the primary sources feeding those stories to wrestling journalists? Sources close to the elite. Sources close to AEW management. Sources close to Jon Moxley. Ambrose spent months poisoning the well, making sure that even in his WWE return, there would always be doubt about CM Punk. He planted seeds of discord, created narratives about Punk being toxic, and made sure that when the attack happened, people would question whether Punk deserved it. That's not just an attack. That's psychological warfare. But the most damning evidence of all, the one connection that WWE is desperately trying to keep buried, The Shield. Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, the Hounds of Justice, the most dominant faction in modern WWE history. And who is the one person who could have prevented this attack if he wanted to? Who had the power, the resources, and the influence to stop it? Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the man who runs WWE. Now, I'm not saying Roman was directly involved, but I am saying that Roman has maintained a relationship with Jon Moxley that nobody talks about. They text, they communicate, and according to multiple reports, Roman was one of the few WWE superstars that Moxley stayed in contact with after leaving the company. What if Ambrose reached out to his old Shield brother and said, "I need you to look the other way for one night"? What if he leveraged their friendship, their bond, their brotherhood to get access to information about CM Punk's schedule, his security detail, his vulnerabilities? And what if Seth Rollins, the man who has publicly had issues with CM Punk, the man who has every reason to want Punk taken out, what if he was the inside man, feeding information to Ambrose, making sure security was in the right place at the wrong time? The Shield was built on loyalty, on brotherhood, on watching each other's backs no matter what. And if Dean Ambrose called in that favor, if he activated that bond one more time, both Roman and Seth would have reasons to help him. Not because they wanted to hurt Punk directly, but because brotherhood trumps everything in their world. That's the conspiracy, people. That's the web of loyalty, betrayal, and manipulation that Dean Ambrose has been weaving for years. And here's the most infuriating part of all of this. WWE knows. They know about Ambrose's involvement, but they can't do anything about it without exposing how deep this goes. Think about it. If WWE comes out and says, a former WWE superstar who now works for our competition orchestrated an attack on one of our biggest stars, what does that mean? It means admitting their security failed. It means admitting that their top guys might have been complicit. It means opening a legal and PR nightmare that could destroy relationships across the entire wrestling industry. So instead, they stay silent. They investigate quietly. They let the speculation run wild, knowing that eventually people will move on to the next controversy, the next storyline, the next distraction. But we don't forget here at WrestleScope. We don't move on. We demand the truth. Dean Ambrose thought he could execute the perfect crime. He thought he could strike at CM Punk's return, derail his momentum, and reclaim the rebel narrative that Punk stole from him. But the truth always comes out. Always. And right now, we're watching it unfold in real time. So here's what I want you to do. Share this video. Get it in front of every wrestling fan you know. Make WWE answer these questions. Make them address the timeline, the connections, the suspicious silence around this entire situation. CM Punk deserves justice. The WWE Universe deserves the truth, and Dean Ambrose needs to be held accountable for what he's done. I know some of you are going to defend Mox. I know some of you think I've lost my mind. But ask yourself this one simple question. Can you really look at all these connections, all this evidence, all this timing, and say with absolute certainty that I'm wrong? The pieces fit together too perfectly. The motive is too clear. The opportunity was there, and Dean Ambrose had every single reason to make CM Punk pay for achieving what he never could. True redemption in WWE. This isn't just about one attack. This is about a man so consumed by jealousy, so driven by the need to be wrestling's ultimate rebel, that he was willing to orchestrate violence, manipulate his former brothers, and betray everything the Shield ever stood for. Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, whatever you want to call yourself, the wrestling world is watching, and we're not going to let this go. If you believe Dean Ambrose needs to answer for this conspiracy, smash that like button right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments.